Welcome to the deep dive. So we got some really fascinating material on Madagascar sent over.
Yes, definitely intriguing stuff.
And we're ready to explore this really unique island nation with everyone. Think of this as a quick way to get up to speed.
Yeah, a real journey into what makes it tick.
From, the wildlife, the landscapes, culture,
Yeah.
even pirates. And giant birds that aren't around anymore.
Lots to cover.
Let's dive in.
Okay. So, based on everything you shared, it's clear Madagascar is, well, extraordinary. We can kind of unpack how its long isolation led to these really remarkable traits you just don't find anywhere else.
Okay, let's start with the wildlife then, because the numbers, when you look at them, are just wow.
Right.
Around 90% of the animals there are endemic, found only there.
Yeah, 90%. It's staggering.
When you think about that, what does it, tell you about isolation's power?
Well, it suggests it was kind of an evolutionary laboratory because Madagascar broke away from Africa so long ago, it became its own little world, basically.
Right.
The lack of, say, big African predators allowed lemurs, which might have died out elsewhere, to, well, not just survive, but really branch out.
Into that huge range you were reading about.
Exactly. Over 100 different species and subspecies, like you saw in the sources. It's a textbook example of adaptive radiation, really.
Oh, neat.
And then you have things like the panther chameleon, with those incredible colors. Another highlight of this unique biodiversity.
Absolutely incredible. Okay, shifting gears. The geography you looked into. Fourth largest island globally. Bigger than France, one article said. Does that size, plus the isolation, explain why the ecosystems are so, different?
Precisely, yeah. That separation over millions of years allowed these unique environments to develop.
Okay.
And speaking of those iconic landscapes you mentioned, like the baobab trees, perfect example.
Oh, yeah, the Avenue of the Baobab.
Right. Some of those trees are over 1,000 years old. Amounts.
Well, like herbal.
And what's also striking, as you probably noticed, is what's not there.
Like lions and giraffes.
Exactly. No typical African big game. It really highlights just how different Madagascar's path was.
It's almost strange to think of Africa without them. But yeah, given the history, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, your notes also mention the Malagasy people and their culture.
Fascinating blend.
A mix of Asian and African heritage. Where does that originate?
Well, it really reflects centuries of movement across the Indian Ocean. You had migrations, trade, people from Southeast Asia, especially Indonesia, arrived and mixed with populations from Africa.
Yeah.
And that created this really rich cultural tapestry.
You see it in everything.
Pretty much, yeah. Traditions, art, the language itself. Malagasy, as your sources pointed out, has elements from both regions.
And then later influences too.
Right, from Arab traders, and then, of course, the French colonial period, which is why you have the two official languages.
Malagasy and French.
Exactly. Malagasy is widely spoken, but French is still used in government education. So lots of people are bilingual.
Sounds like a real crossroads.
Yeah.
And speaking of history, pirates. That would jumped out at me from the material. Pirates in the 17th and 18th centuries. Sounds like a movie.
It does add a bit of colorful history, doesn't it? Apparently, its remote location and all those little harbors made it a good spot for pirates working the Indian Ocean. There are even legends debated, mind you, about a pirate utopia called Libertalia.
Wow, really?
Yeah, founded on freedom principles, supposedly. It definitely adds another layer to the island story you uncovered.
No kidding. Okay, bringing it to today, I was actually surprised to read that Madagascar is huge in the vanilla market.
Oh, yeah, massive.
Supplying over 60%. How did that happen?
Well, it's a cool story of agricultural adaptation. The vanilla orchid, it's actually from Mexico originally.
So did that.
Yeah, but it was brought over during the colonial times, and the climate and farming methods in Madagascar just turned out to be perfect for it.
So it just took off there.
Exactly. And over time, they became the world's top producer. Shows how global trade and, the right environment can shape an economy.
Amazing. Who knew? Okay, and finally, your research mentioned some truly giant creatures that used to live there. Extinct megafauna. The elephant bird. That sounds enormous.
It really was a true giant. The largest bird ever known, actually. Stood up to, 3 meters tall?
Wow.
And laid these absolutely massive eggs. They, along with other extinct giants, they paint a picture of a very different Madagascar back then.
If you think.
Definitely makes you consider, the impact of environmental changes in humans on biodiversity over the long haul.
So looking back at all this info you shared, what's the biggest takeaway for you? What really stands out about Madagascar?
For me, I think It has to be the sheer power of that isolation. It shaped almost everything. The totally unique wildlife, that diverse cultural heritage from different groups developing kind of on their own, even those incredible giant creatures that are gone now. It all comes back to being separate.
It really does make you think, doesn't it? Consider what that kind of extreme island isolation can really lead to. These unique evolutionary paths, unique cultures. Makes you wonder what other hidden wonders places like that might still hold, waiting for us to find out about them.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for taking this deep dive into Madagascar with us.